Hello and welcome. You are listening to me, Rohan Thakar, on India's first podcast for athletes, that is Hit the Road. That's right. In the previous episode, we had the Mahajan brothers, who are doctors and have successfully finished Race Across America in 2015, and now they embark on a journey called Sea to Sky, where they ride from Gateway of India till Kathmandu and then climb the Mount Everest for a cause, that is to create awareness about cardiopulmonary resuscitation, that is CPR, a life skill which everyone must know. And they'll be traveling through the major cities and they'll be conducting workshops to create awareness of this technical skill. And in the previous episode, if you have not listened, do listen to it. We covered a lot of topics. We talked about their journey, how they got into cycling, why they got into cycling, and how did they complete the Race Across America, their experiences, and much more. And moving on to today's episode, we are with them once again, where we continue what was left behind. We speak about nutrition, which is the most important aspect in training in sports, and we speak about how they plan their nutrition and what do they consume day-to-day basis. And we also speak about how did they build their crew, what forming a crew, and how can they make or break a race. After that, they tell us what their adventure is about and how did they plan the adventure, what goes into planning such a mighty task, the logistics, the training, the nutrition, the packaging, and everything revolving around it. So stay tuned and I hope you like this episode. So Mahajan brothers, please tell me what goes into packing that proper nutrition plan, and what do you consume when you're training and during the race, of course.
During the training, yes, it is very important to balance and maintain your nutrition, because you are extracting something more out of your body, and you need to fulfill that. You need to provide that much, replenish it. It is in the form of carbohydrate as well as proteins. Then only whatever wear and tear is happening, it can get reproduced and rebalanced properly. As far as in India, if you think, Indian diet is very well balanced, provided you are eating good home cooked food in a balanced manner. Whether it is veg or non-veg hardly makes any difference. You just need to provide that much required amount of carbohydrate, fat, and protein. And then comes the vitamins and minerals. If your requirement of protein is not getting fulfilled by your routine diet, then only you should go for a ready-made protein, which is comes in a powder form. And in that also, you try to restrict to the good company and plain protein, not with any additive. Specifically, I'd like to mention here, because very much people get fascinated with all the available products in the market, which are most of the time mixed with some steroid for your fast gain. So our aim here is not to gain something in a fast manner. Our aim here is try to keep it as physiological, as basic as possible. And whether it is veg or non-veg, if you eat non-veg, it becomes little easy to replenish proteins from the diet. If you are not non-vegetarian, pure vegetarian, even there are so many things available in our vegetarian diet which can give us equally good amount of protein. I'll just give you an example, like what we say is drumstick, maximum protein content, more than chicken, more than fish. Hardly few people know this. Drumstick, you can eat drumstick, then soybean is there, nuts are there. So all these things you can use in various forms, which can be palatable also. And during the activity, whatever you are training, whether it is a hard activity or whether it is a recovery activity, you have to see to it that you are providing sufficient amount of carbohydrate during the activity as well. Because if I had planned something like training of 1 hour, so half an hour prior to that training, I should provide some ready-made glucose, some form of carbohydrate, so that during the activity, my body should not eat my own muscle or stored energy. Because stored energy is not that much. And after finishing that store energy, if I want to rely that during the activity, it never happens that our fat gets burned. Our body starts utilizing our muscle and our protein and all these things. So this thing should not happen. So always we should keep the balance of carbohydrate during the training also. If my training is of 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, suppose, during that time it becomes very important during the training also to keep on having some form of the complex carbohydrate which will keep on providing energy to your body, so that whatever you want to gain out of that training, your body gains that, achieves that, rather than self destroying your own muscle. So diet is very important. So just to summarize, three things are like: first thing is proper balance of the diet of carbohydrate, fat and protein into that, and then proper timing during the activity, before the activity, or after the activity. So if you maintain this thing during the training, it will boost your training as such. I think even Mahendra can add something to that during the training diet.
Yeah, I usually carry two bottles. One will be a plain water, another will have some form of electrolyte. Because if you are doing intense training, you are bound to sweat a lot, and if you are sweating a lot, you are losing a lot of salts. So, depending upon if it's a hot day, you can gulp as good as 1 liter a hour, or it could be 500 ml on a cold day also. So that is water part of it. Then alternatively, we can sip on water as well as electrolytes. Now, if it is a very long ride, like say 10, 12 hours, I cannot keep on, some people don't like the taste of drinking electrolyte for such a long time. So there are salt capsules also which are available in the market. They get directly dissolved in the your stomach, so you don't get that distaste, or that sweetish taste always lingering into your mouth. So that is there, and this is the liquid part of it. And you can munch on dry fruits. Almonds are good. And I often carry sandwiches in my pocket, so I can, if it is a 3 hours ride, 3 hours or so, I'll carry a bread jam sandwich wrapped in an aluminum foil, and I'll consume one after in an hour or so. So this way you can replenish your carbohydrate. And once you are done with your activity, immediately you should have high protein diet for the recovery of it. That high protein diet could be your eggs, or as Hitendra mentioned, it could be any dal or any food that is rich in protein, right? Now, this is one part when you're training and recovering. During recovery, you require more proteins. But if you're talking about race, when you're performing it for a longer time, like RAM, which is for 8 days, or Golden Quadrilateral we wrote for 10 days, or recently, which I did Kashmir to Kanyakumari, I was exiting for 10 days or so. So in those 10 days, when you're riding, you should have maximum carbohydrate. Now you get certain preparations called as sustained energy. Now all this sustained energy, or on the go, or during activity, those powders are there. They will have around 5 to 6 parts of carbohydrate and only 1 part of protein, because you need cash currency, or you need glucose, or you need carbohydrates to burn, right? And whenever you are resting, suppose if I stop, if I call it a day, and if I'm going to sleep for 3 hours, so what I'll do is I'll take a little high protein energy drink, which is for recovery, which comes by the name of Recoverites or so, right? So during, it is more of a carbohydrate. When you're recovering, yeah, you need to have more protein. But this relying on these powders, or artificial forms, is what I do generally is during, when you're doing that prolonged activity, when you're racing for so many days. Otherwise, we should try and restrict, if possible, to have more natural ingredients which are rich in protein. And it is not that we are always always racing or always training, right? So there are phases in between when for 6 months you're not doing much of an activity. So that time, restrict yourself to your own home cooked food, I would say.
Yeah, during the race, one funda you should always remember: you should never let your muscle, specifically in this endurance activity where you are expected to perform again and again and again and again for long hours, you should never let your muscles go in calorie deficient state. Means what? Means there should be all the time availability of glucose in your blood for muscles to perform. Now, how you can do it? By keep on eating carbohydrates in one or the other form, preferably complex carbohydrates, which will get absorbed in your body and keep on releasing the glucose as on needed. So you can make the mixture of all these things. So whenever we are on a ride, what we do is, on the ride we try to eat all the available things which are easy to eat, like a gels or like a high energy drinks or something like that, or then even dates or cheeky sort of thing, bars, that type of things we try to eat during the ride. But whenever we are off ride, even if it for say half an hour or 45 minutes, we try to eat chapati, we try to eat rice or anything which is solid food, which we have, like, though not in a very high quantity, adequate quantity, but it is very important to rely on that solid food also, because that is the thing which keeps your bowel motility and everything in a good shape, which will not trouble you much. So balancing this thing is very important. The dictum is, you should not let your muscle go into calorie deficient state, otherwise you will have a bong effect, and at one stage you will feel fatigued to the extent that where you will not feel like continuing further. That thing should not happen in endurance activity. So you need to plan, it should not be over also. And same thing it goes for hydration also. So whatever way you are taking, you have to keep on hydrating. On an average, for burning 1 calorie you need 4 ml of water. So accordingly you have to plan and keep on taking. It's not like if I need 200 ml of water per hour, it's not like at the end of 1 hour I'll have 200 ml. Try to take like sips every 15 minutes, so that body gets the things as it requires, not after expending. It's not like a bank, like you spend and then you refuel it. So keep on fulfilling.
And in these long duration activities like RAM and so on, let me tell you, you burn around 10 to 12,000 a day, calories a day. So, and it is said that it is not possible to replenish, you cannot eat that much, right? So, nevertheless, it doesn't make a difference. Even if you are consuming 8,000 up to 8,000 calories, that is also fine, because you are not going to do these activities, for months together. You are going to perform for those 10 days, and probably after 6 months only, you are going to do some activity like that.
Kabir and Bharat will be doing RAM this year. What are your tips for them?
Those people who target for winning of RAM, there are guys who don't eat solid food much. They rely on more of a liquid food, because they don't want to waste time even going for a washroom break. So that is the case. But what I have realized over a period of time, that we Indians, it's very difficult to keep on be on only on liquid diet. At least I can't be. I cannot tell about others, but yeah, as I said, when I'm riding, you will need to rely on one form of drink, which will be a sustained energy drink, which will have a lot of carbohydrates in it. And you can have, like, we are used to having three solid meals. So whatever you get in Subways, you get more salads and more bread preparations that you can have 3 times. And in between these 3 meals also, you can rely on dry fruits and fruits. So dry fruits and fruits are best fillers in between those 3 meals. So that is how my plan would be to go when you're that will be a nutrition plan if I'm going to do a prolonged activity.
Yeah, so that's why it is important to have a RV type of vehicle, where you can utilize the available kitchen, and cook small things. Like, it's very important at least to have a 2 solid meals rather than completely relying on a liquid diet. That's what I will prefer. And then, you first of all, in such activities you are tired and you don't feel like eating anything. So preferably, if you get things which you like, and if they are hot, it is added advantage which will help you to keep on engulfing whatever comes in front of. So if you have a follow vehicle which has got a kitchen, at least some people can make small things like egg preparations, or make a bread hot,
Sandwiches.
or then you can just dip it in a milk and eat. So that kind of things is possible if you have a kitchen along with you, and which will help you to prepare things. Even if you have someone who can cook pohe for you or khichdi for you, something which you like, easy to digest but provides a lot of calories, is definitely helpful.
Well, that's phenomenal. I'm sure you listeners are taking notes of what they are saying, and I would like to go a little back, and I want you to elaborate on the crew part. So, how did you choose your crew? Were they from India itself, or they were based in the US? What goes into choosing your crew, and how can one do so?
Very interesting question. Let me tell you. As I said, when I went there in 2014 just to have a hang of the race, till that time I had never visited USA, or it was my first visit. Of course, with the aim of understanding the race, understanding the technicality of it, and then understanding the geographical conditions of the race in that country. So I worked as a navigator in team for a team of Atlanta. That was team of 4, and I was just observing all the teams. And then what I realized in that entire episode, crew members, as I said, need not be technically very hi-fi or expert cyclist or expert who has done expert races beforehand. No, what I realize is the most important quality which in your crew should have is dedication towards the rider. Your crew should realize that he's not on a picnic here. Your crew should realize that he's there for the purpose where he is going to help a rider to race in a best possible format. And that is possible only if the crew is dedicated, because you don't know what work a crew will have to do in that race. He will have to navigate, he will have to dry you, he will have to prepare a food, shop, get inventories, whatever work comes. So that is only possible if that crew has a dedication and will to work for the racer. So first important thing I'll suggest is get a dedicated, and that is either your family member or your friends, or someone who is really enthusiastic about participating in that event. May not be your relatives or may not be a friend, but then someone who cares for you and cares for the sport. Then second thing is, yes, of course, if they are educated enough about the race, they can understand the technicality very well, they can understand the exact way you need to help a rider. Like in Race Across America, you need to understand the rules and regulations, you need to obey them, follow them. Like in our part, it was going to that country, and then we follow we have a right steering cars, and we follow the left lane. It is exactly opposite in USA. But then if someone has got that willpower, there is not big hitch to get over it and follow it. Then keeping yourself focus for two things. One is for rider, that yes, he's riding properly and I'm supplying him whatever he needs at that time. And second thing is keeping him on a track, reading that. Then you need to learn little bit about navigation, which is very important. As I said, there is no one showing you the way, standing on the every. What they do is at 1 mile you have to take right turn, at from there at 3.2 miles you have to take left turn. So should have a presence of mind to click your trip meter, use it properly at every point so that you don't deviate from the route. So navigation, yeah, very much alert, very much focus. And then at the same time he has to look after those signs on the road, inform the rider who is riding ahead of you, and keep going. As far as driver is concerned, he should use to hard work in the sense driving for 14 hours, 15 hours, that too with a slow speed behind the rider. There are incidences happen in the Race Across America where their own vehicle has dashed their own rider because of sleep or whatever it is to the driver. So driver should know how to keep himself or herself alert, and drive properly with that slow speed. And then having coordination between all those crew is very important. They should not have a ego. They should know that yes, we are here for the race. Rider safety is the priority. Following the race rules is the priority. So even if I am expert or whatever it is in my field, I should see to it that my expertise is put to the advantage of the team, not before, or not my ego should come in the way. So if there is a leader, I have to follow the leader. I'll just give you example of my team. Like, everyone was knowing that there is a leader, and everyone was pretty clear that you may be boss in your field or whatever, here you are a team member. If you have any problem, or if you have face any, or if you make any mistake, you need to rectify it, you need to inform to the leader, and at that point you have to, whatever decision leader takes, you can just suggest, but then ultimately you have to follow the leader's decision. So subordination is very important in your crew member. You should know how to subordinate yourself, not only that giving advices. So these qualities if you crew have, I don't think there will be any problem in having the good crew and success of the team.
Yeah, adding to that, we had one of our doctor friend, Dr. Gujar, who was a US citizen. So he could, educate other crew members about the traffic rules and regulations, because entirely you have to ride, and you have to ride cycle, and they have to ride, they have to drive the car from the right side of the road. So which we are not used to it. So we had 3 friends joining from US. There were 2 more friends, Dr. Amol Tambe and Dr. Sandeep Shewale, who were from UK. Now they are more used to following traffic rules and regulations than we are in India. So that's a good quality. And all of them were good navigators, right? And apart from that, we had Miten Thakkar, our coach was there. He was with us. So that is an added asset. And we had Pankaj Marlesha, who is a technically very sound guy in repairs of cycle. So that is how it diverse. It gets, you have people who have different qualities. Like
You need to balance.
They can drive well, they can navigate well, somebody can repair well, somebody can, coach can take a call of how to go about the strategy and all. So this is how a mixed, talents you should have in your crew.
But ultimately, one has to remember that he has to follow the leader. In any given situation, whatever leader takes the decision, they should not. I had seen people fighting among themselves, literally, in other teams. So that never happened in our team, because that cohesiveness was there. That feeling of priority, like priority is the team, that was there. So team comes first, and leader decision, yes, you can suggest, but then ultimately as leader can have a bird's eye view. That's why that person is leader. So one needs to listen in that situation, then only all the team, the entire team can move smoothly.
Everyone knows ultra racing is a very expensive sport. And how did you go about the funding? Did you procure it all by yourself, or did someone help you and support you to do so?
As far as finances of such thing in India, at least, it is not established things, all these adventure sports and all these things. So procuring sponsorship for such thing is very difficult, very difficult. First of all, it being your passion, you should know that yes, you have to spend. When first time we decided, after becoming qualified for participating in this race, myself and my brother, we discussed and we said, fine, this is our passion, we need to pursue it. So what will happen at the most? We need to spend from our pocket. So that means what? At the end of the life, I will have little less bank balance or little less investment. But then I will be having a more on an experience side, more on a memories side, fulfillment side. So I have to think that yes, what I want at the end of my life, I want more bank balance, I want more investment, or I want something enriched life. Because it's very difficult to get finances for such activities. Even though if we try to involve social cost to it, you can get hardly 20% support in a finances from others. Rest thing, you need to put it from your pocket. And then whatever those 20-30% financial help you get, that is usually from your well-wishers and friends. That's what our experience is. Now, as far as RAM is concerned, as I said, our budget was totally of 50 lakh rupees. And how we got over to that, most of the things we got in kind from our friends and well-wishers. Like all our crew members, as I said, they were our friends. So they said that, okay, we will come on our own expenses. So they bear their own expenses of traveling. You got it? Without demanding any money, leave apart money, they themselves even donated some money. Then most of the money what we could generate was from friends and well-wishers, that some donated us 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, like that. And only one corporate believed us that time, because that time no one was knowing Mahajan Brothers. That time no one was knowing RAM, Race Across America. But still, because of our friend who was knowing Abhayji Firodia for Force Motors, he believed in us and he granted some part of money which will help us to conduct the social activity, which was conducting free of cost cataract surgeries and corneal transplant surgeries for tribal people. So that was our social cause for the Race Across America. That's why we registered ourselves as a Team India Vision for Tribal. And to perform that social cause, we got financial help from Abhayji Firodia Force Motors. So you get a help, but for some social cause, not like for going and participating in the races. That much environment is not there in India as of now, where you can expect. So first thing is, you need to, whenever you visualize such dream, you need to be ready that you have to spend from your own pocket. And at the most 20 to 30% of your budget you can get. As of now, today, Mahajan Brothers, this name is little bit established. So rather than 20%, we get 30% help, because we could create that much faith in the people that yes, we mean what we say. We do what we say. We try our best and we try to achieve that social goal also. So that's why this finances, it will take little time. In future, maybe our corporate will get evolved. They will start believing in the people and they will start financing such activity. But as of now, it is more or less they are self-funded.
That's brilliant. So, okay, now let's move on to the Sea to Sky adventure that we all have been here and waiting to speak about. This is a very special adventure and it's one of its own kind. Not many have even thought of doing such an adventure where you will be starting from sea level and you will be climbing the mighty Mount Everest. So you are an inspiration for so many people. What inspired you to choose Sea to Sky as your adventure?
Basically, we wanted to put all our interests in adventure sports in a one particular expedition, and this is a combination of cycling, trekking as well as mountaineering. So that was the basic idea. Like many people will be going to Mount Everest, but very few will be doing this. Starting from sea level, mean sea level. All the peaks or altitudes are measured from mean sea level. And this is going to be an entire human-powered expedition right from sea level to the highest point on the earth, that is the top of Mount Everest. So, of course, it was Hitendra's brainchild to get this idea, and we discussed about it, and this is how it was decided that we do this expedition in a unique way, in a different way.
Yeah, means what? See, we did in last 20 years. We were into marathon running, we were into mountaineering, we were into cycling. And somewhere we thought that with every activity, society got benefited. We could at least encourage some people to take up all these activities. And at this stage, I thought that why not to combine all these activities? Why not to bring all these communities together? Because, these communities, they are the one who care for the health, not only of our own health, our society health, and they are the one who care about environment. They are the one, you will never find a trekker or a mountaineer spoiling the environment or littering here and there. Same thing applies to the runners, same thing applies to the cyclist. So they go for environment, they love environment as well. And I was just thinking that if I want to put my country at an international level, I need to do something different. So why not to combine all these three communities, all these three activities, so that everyone will come together and it can set a different example. Yes, starting from sea level, going up to sky level, and then mixing up two, three activities, so that it becomes a unique. And then everywhere, like it is a norm that if something is unique, it will create more impact. And that impact can help us to bring awareness or bring social change about our goal of creating, like in this case it is cardiopulmonary resuscitation, creating awareness. So that was the basic reason of planning this Sea to Sky mission, so that we can create a impact in cycling, in mountaineering, in trekking, for environmental lover, and then for a health of the people, and then create awareness about CPR. And that's how this idea got generated. Like
When you started planning of this expedition, Sea to Sky, what were the things that were there in your mind? What was the plan that you had, and what checklist did you make? कि ये हे करायचं है. This is the way that you want to go forward. The packaging, the logistics, everything. So please tell in depth what things did you plan and how your checklist.
We had to first finalize the route. So nowadays it is very easier that your Google Maps gives you different types, different routes, and we tried to incorporate as many bigger cities we can have en route. So there was this, as we'll be riding this route to in a relay format, so we need 2 support cars, and we need at least 6 crew members with us. So that is been taken care of, and I'm happy to share that Force Motors is again we are supporting this expedition too, and they'll be providing 2 vehicles to us with a driver and all. So that was easier. The things got easier because of this support. And as I said, the crew members are they believe in us and they want to be a part of it. So we chose whoever was very enthusiastic and capable of doing multitasking. As far as we have to train for cycling part of it, and for mountaineering part of it, we have also incorporated training with around 18 to 20 kgs we carry, and that is how we climb mountains and train ourselves now. That is a different part, different activity as compared to previous ultra cycling that we have done. And logistic planning about the Everest part of it, yeah, you require lot of gears and apparels which has to be best of their qualities, because you have to go through temperatures more than minus 40 degrees Celsius. So we took help from other people who have been on Mount Everest, and our Sherpa. We have a agency who will be taking care of after we leave Kathmandu. So with his inputs, with you have to read a lot about this expedition, and that is how the logistic planning of Everest expedition is being done.
So checklist was like, here as there was 3 activities involved: cycling, trekking and mountaineering. So obviously, like cycling part, we already have our bikes and gears and everything, and it was like a dedicated to the cause. So purposefully we planned in such a way. Otherwise 2400 kilometers we could have covered in 36 hours non-stop. Yeah, but then here what we did is, our basic aim is to create awareness of cardiopulmonary resuscitation also. So that's why we planned it in such a way that we will cover most of the major cities where our Indian Society of Anesthesiologists doctors, they will come out that particular city. Even as Abhay Firodia ji, they always believe in us, Force Motors. We always say that Force Motors is force behind Mahajan Brothers. So this time also they participated, they provided us a vehicle, and their dealers at every place, even they will help us to execute this social cause. So that's how we planned ourselves for cycling part. And then of course for trekking and mountaineering part, As far as Nepal government goes, we purposefully selected a Nepal route because it is well established, it is safe, because that is our passion, not our profession. And so we always keep safety as a priority. We do want to enjoy that thrill of adventure, but following certain principles, keeping safety as a priority.
As risk free as possible.
Yeah, as minimal as possible. So what we can do in our hand, we should do. So we hired a agency. We selected a South Cole route because that is well established from all logistic support point of view. We hired a agency that also, in last 1 year, I must have talked with so many people who had been to Everest from Pune, Mumbai and other places. And then we had selected a best possible Sherpas, best possible agency who can provide us a logistic support, who can take the permission on behalf of us from Nepal government, and who can help us in a best possible way. So after reaching at Kathmandu, on the way also there will be to all the Nepalis, not only now it is a Indian, we will be teaching this cardiopulmonary resuscitation to Nepali people also. We are getting converted those pamphlets which we will be printing in English and Hindi in Nepali language also. And there on the way, we will be crossing so many villages of Nepal. So we will be teaching them how to perform a cardiopulmonary resuscitation to all the cardiac arrest victim. And once we reach a base camp, then from there we'll be, we will try to provide that if at all required to any mountain, because it is like a global village, international village. During those 2 months, you will find climbers and enthusiast mountaineers coming all across the world with the one aim of reaching on a summit of Mount Everest. So we will be, while that mountaineering part also, we will be simultaneously providing our social activity, we will be carrying our mannequin, and at the same time we will be focusing to reach to the summit of the. So that planning is, as Mahendra mentioned, we need to purchase the special gear and all. 2 months back we had been to Kathmandu. We had purchased all those equipments which is required. Some of them we got them here, and we are getting ourselves used to it, using those equipment, using those apparels, so that we get used to them. And that's how we are training ourselves for this unique mission.
You have been cycling for a long time now, but Mount Everest is a different challenge altogether. The terrain is different, the climate is unpredictable totally. How did you train for climbing the Everest, and what was your training plan like?
See, basically we are right from college days, we are a hard-born trekker. We are trained mountaineers. It was after falling into a profession, those activities got little restricted, but we are fortunate to be in Nasik, which is surrounded by Sahyadri mountains and all these things. So what we keep going in Sahyadri, keep that hobby live, and then once in a year we always go to Himalaya for one trek.
Basically high altitude trek. We used to go every year right from say 2000 to 2015, where RAM came into picture. Before that, every year there used to be one high altitude trek which used to be in the range of say 15,000 to 21,000 feet. So it is not the first time that we are going into the Himalayas. We have been doing this and repeatedly doing this, and we had tested ourselves to 21,000 altitude. Yeah.
And we had trained mountaineers, like we had done basic mountaineering course, advanced mountaineering course, though during the college days. But then once you acquire such skills, you don't forget them. Now the question is again reviving them in your life. So here what we do is technical part, of course, we do it in a quarries and all, playing with the ropes and all those hard equipments. But then what is required in taking such Everest climbing is your fitness should be very good, because there you will need to perform in a high altitude where oxygen level is less. So you need to build up your fitness to that extent. And here what we do is, as we are lucky to be in Nasik and surrounded by all over hill, what we do is, as Mahendra mentioned, we carry a load of 18 to 20 kg in a sack, and then we additionally tie ankle weight of 2 kg each in our feet, and then we, like, nearest is Pandoleni, so daily we go to Pandoleni, we climb 2-3 times as per the time availability, and twice a week or thrice a week or on a Sunday we go to Anjaneri. From base we climb up there, sometime once, sometime twice, as fast as possible. So that type of activity is going to help us to train ourselves to climb the uphill which is required there in Mount Everest climbing.
So those places which Hitendra mentioned, the one which is nearer and shorter one has a 200-meter elevation gain. So that if you repeat for 2 or 3 times, it's a 400 to 600 meters gain. And the long walk or the long trail is having around 700 meters of gain. So that is quite grueling when you are carrying 22 kgs, including the sack weight as well as the ankle weight. And as Hitendra mentioned, your basic cardiopulmonary stamina should be very good. Your lung volume capacity and your heart rate should be as low as possible, which basically maybe since we are into some or the other endurance activities from so many years, that is a little plus point, I would say. Why I say this is maybe cycling was a priority before RAM, but there used to be half marathons which we used to run without much of a practice. Just for the sake of running, we could do it in the 1 hour 45 minutes, which is a pretty good time, taking into consideration that we were not running at all. So you can attribute it to your cardiopulmonary stamina, which if it is good, it is going to help you in all the ways, be it climbing Mount Everest or so. So what is required differently is your climbing muscles should develop. How they will get developed, that is by doing this activity of carrying a lot of weight and climbing the hills repeatedly.
In this journey of yours from Mumbai to Kathmandu, are you both doing it alone or do you have someone to join you as well? Will there be people along with you or is it just you both in this adventure?
Yes, we had appealed to all because see, social awareness, let it be cardiopulmonary resuscitation, let it be health awareness, fitness awareness among all our people. Being a doctor, we always keep on preaching that, or then environmental awareness. So these are our main goals. So unless and until, see, we doing Sea to Sky mission, we doing RAM, we doing Golden Quadrilateral, whatever it is not going to be effective unless and until it benefits society in one or the other way. So definitely in this mission also we had appealed people to join us. Also people are joining us from Gateway of India to Thana. Some people are joining us 20 kilometers from Thana. Some people from Nasik, they'll be coming 20 kilometers on the highway and they'll be joining us. So like that, we had appealed people, and during our experience of Golden Quadrilateral, we are assured that during this time also many people will join us for these short trips, which will help us to encourage them, motivate them, and spread our social goal.
That's the way community gets stronger. That's brilliant. I had a chat with Chaitanya Velal, who is also an Ironman. He trains people for different ultra events like the ultra races, marathons, Ironmans, and a lot more. So he told me that he teaches his students to visualize not just the good things that can happen, but the bad things that can happen during a race. There may be an accident, there may be a blizzard coming in, there may be several injuries, and that visualization, he said that visualization helps a student to understand and gauge the risks which are there and prepares them to act accordingly. So speaking about the risks and challenges, what challenges do you think can arise in this expedition of yours?
As of now, cycling part, yes. First thing is we are doing it in the month of April, though the beginning of April, so you can feel the heat. So
Days will be hotter, yeah.
Yeah. So heat is the thing which we have to face. Then of course the Indian traffic, and which we need to be focused on. That thing will be, and we have to keep on cycling though in a relay format from Mumbai to Kathmandu, and then we have to keep on delivering our social cause also. So these are the difficulties which we will have to overcome during the cycling part. And then once we are in a mountain, what we have to be careful about is the weather. So weather is something which we'll have to look forward for. We'll have to be very careful in a mountain because the risk increases. Here, the cycling part, the risk is of traffic and accident and all these things. And in a mountain, it is about climbing, it is about rockfall, it is about snowfall, it is about crevasses, it is about avalanches, all these things. So we need to be very careful from that point of view. We need to protect ourselves from dry air, cold atmosphere during the night time, and during the daytime sunburns and heat. Even if you are in a snow, many times the temperature goes up to 35 degree in the daytimes, hot. And there at a high altitude, because the air is thin, ultraviolet rays are quite heavy to the extent that they burn your skin, that much heavy. And during the night time, it is exactly opposite. It becomes so cold and so dry that we start coughing to the extent that the cough, if we don't protect ourselves properly from that dry cough and all, we can start coughing the blood also. Protecting our tips of fingers, nose and all these things from that cold air becomes very important, because they can go into a frostbite, and to the extent that we may have to amputate those fingers. So these are the climatic challenge we may have to face and take up. Not getting proper sleep. At mountains, you don't feel like eating, still you have to keep on eating for getting energy. Melting the snow and getting the water and then drinking it. In cold weather, you don't feel like drinking, and in that, keeping yourself hydrated is very important. So these are the challenges which we are visualizing now, and we are preparing our mind and body that how we will protect ourselves, how we will keep ourselves hydrated, how we will keep ourselves protected from sun, what all things we will use, how we will dress up. So these are the challenges which we expect and which we are preparing ourselves, visualizing now, so that our body will obey us that time, and we will be able to face them in a most pleasant way. At the same time, let me make it clear here that it is not a destination which is important in our this entire mission. It is a journey also which is equally important. We are giving equal importance to every day. Suppose I'm starting from Gateway of India, so for me, reaching up to Nasik, going to Dhule, performing those act of social cause, and that is also equally important for me. So if it happens that if I don't reach on a summit of by one or the other reason, that doesn't mean that my mission is incomplete or something like that, because that is not the only aim. Here the priority is safety. When you say that you have successfully climbed Mount Everest, when you come back alive, intact, that is very important. Mountain is going to be there. What I have to see to it that I should be there to see that mountain. I can go back again. So I should never carry my ego there. My ego is not to reach on the summit. If God permits, I'll be happily, politely stepping on the summit of Mount Everest. But that is not the only part of it, or that is not the end of it. I'm going to respect the weather. I'm going to respect the mountain. I'm going to respect each and everything, so that safety remains the priority. So all those who want to take such ventures, they should never make it an ego point in anything. Because all the adventure sports, they have their own principles laid down. And one has to understand those principles and follow them in doing this activity, so that you can enjoy that thrill in the most guarded way, in most safest way. And keeping this safety in priority, if you go there and come back alive, then only I can say that yes, my mission is successful. So if God permits, if weather permits, we both of us, we will try to create this record of two doctors, two brothers, to be on a top of Mount Everest, where we can have our tricolor flag and have our national anthem there, so that it will create a record and encourage mankind to perform such activity in future.
I was just going through the data of previous Everest expeditions and all, but I couldn't find any brothers going on to summit. We have sisters from India, the Malik sisters, but brothers I didn't find. So maybe if we could come across, we'll see. And according to profession also, there was one dentist, and probably I would be the second. And similarly, there's one anesthesiologist who had been on the top
From the world.
from the world I'm talking about. We could be a second dentist and a second anesthesiologist in the world, and maybe the first brothers to step on Mount Everest together.
Wow, that's terrific. I'm sure you both will be shattering a lot of records, and everyone are behind you for that. Um, you both are riding, trekking, mountaineering, and it involves a lot of risk. Anything can happen anytime. Nobody can guarantee about it. So, in this situation, we hope nothing happens. But if anything, even the slightest scratch, if anything such happens, what can be done in that situation? Is there any insurance involved? How does it take place? And please enlighten us about it.
Correct. Yeah. As I said, we are not professional cyclists or professional mountaineers or professional this thing. That is our passion basically. And when we pursue the passion, safety comes the first. Safety always remains the priority. And here in this case, that is the only reason why we decided to do from a established South Col route. That is the established route first of all, where support is available, help is available. So South Col is such a route from where rescue operations are available if something goes wrong. From Camp 3 also, I can get a rescue help, so that a helicopter or something can evacuate me from that base camp. That is the reason we selected to attempt Mount Everest from Nepal side, to attempt it from the South Col route. That is well established route, and there are companies which provides insurance also for that. Anyway, rescue is available. It's matter of like you are paying it or an insurance company paying it. Obviously, if you insured yourself against that, there are international companies which provide such help. So we are going to insure ourselves. We are going to pay the premium for that rescue evacuation. At the same time, if required, for the treatment part also, we are going to insure ourselves, which we will receive, which can receive there in Kathmandu if required, or back home in India. So definitely we insure ourselves for all such, and fortunately nowadays there are good companies which covers all such adventure activities as well. So definitely insurance comes as a part of a safety preparation.
Wow, that's terrific. This episode was full of motivation and inspiration, and thank you for coming on this show and inspiring so many listeners out there. And I'm sure you will triumph this expedition, and you are going to shatter a lot of records, and in exchange you will inspire so many people to do so, take up a healthy living, and change their lives altogether. Thank you for giving your time, and I'm sure you enjoyed participating in this episode. For the listeners out there, make sure you give us a loud cheer, and give them a loud cheer, and support them, help them, and cheer them in their journey of sea to sky. You are listening to me, Rohan Thakar, on Epilogue Media. This is Hit the Road, and you can catch us on Savan, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Castbox, Storio, and all other major podcasting apps. So make sure you subscribe, you comment your thoughts, let us know what you think, and until then, hit the road, guys.